Hello, and thank you for tuning in to the Riderflex podcast. Along with our daily tips on career advice, our show features entrepreneurs, business owners, executives, and influencers from all types of industries, sharing their stories, providing advice based on their experiences, and chatting about their companies. If you're interested in being a guest on our show, you can email us at podcast@riderflex.com. And if you like today's episode, please be sure to subscribe to our channel and give us a quick thumbs up. And now, a quick word from our sponsor.
Try the #1 marketing platform for small business. Everything you need from design to marketing to CRM. Learn more at marketing360.com. Marketing 360. Fuel your brand.
So I like to share with people, Steve, that I was born in Haiti, and that was more than 52 years ago. And around the time I was 6-7 months old, my parents moved to New York.
Okay.
And lived in New York till I was 10. And my father, who's a physician, decided that he wanted to move his family somewhere completely opposite of New York. So he moved his family to all places, Lima, Ohio. Now, if you've never heard of Lima, Ohio, you should know that the center of the universe revolves around Lima. Everything. Like you have no idea, but maybe you will moving forward, that a lot of interactions, a lot of things, and things that you never thought of, from science to sports and everything else, connected to Lima.
How about that? Wow.
And the best fast food hamburger in the entire world. Kewpie hamburgers. You can look it up. Your listeners, I hope they can look it up, but people come far and wide to have a Kewpie hamburger.
Kewpie, not Cupid, but Kewpie.
Not Cupid, Kewpie, KEWPEE''S, Kewpie's hamburger.
Is there only one location, or do they have several?
So they have 3, and the story goes that back in the day, there used to be a chain throughout the Midwest, and that chain kind of fell apart. And what was left was these 2 or 3 core restaurants, and they had their own farm that they raise their own cows on. They don't have that anymore, but so local celebrities that were born in the area and moved away. Everybody from politicians in the past years, whenever they're in the area, they all stop at a Kewpie hamburger restaurant. As a matter of fact,
about that,
the legend has it that Dave Thomas of Wendy's, he did an internship or sabbatical or something, spent some time there researching restaurants, and from his time at Kewpie's, he came up with the idea from Wendy's. So if you go to Kewpie's, a lot of things will look familiar to you, from the shape of the hamburgers to the chili to other things. So
interesting.
Lima, Ohio, my friend.
Why did your dad pick that? Did he get a residency there, or did he open up? Was he like a family doctor at a clinic, or what was he?
My father is a psychiatrist.
I see.
And so when he decided to leave, I guess a few places tried recruiting him, and he chose Lima because it was the antithesis of New York, which it truly is.
You were 10
Wonderful
years old.
people there, great place to live, super fond memories. Met my wife there. She's still around. We've known each other since we were kids. And
so
a lot of my friends are still.
You've been married for 30-something years.
No, actually, we've been married for 15 years.
Okay.
But we've been together longer than that. Yeah.
Well, you guys went to high school together, same class?
She was 2 years behind me.
2 years behind you. Okay, very good. All right. And then brothers, sisters, by the way, siblings?
Yeah, I've got, I'm the oldest of 3. Both of my siblings are attorneys. My sister is an attorney. I probably shouldn't say with who, but she's with a very well-known insurance firm in New York.
Okay.
And my brother is in Chicago, and he is with a law firm in downtown Chicago.
No law school for you though, huh? You're like, nah, I don't want. No.
No, that's not my thing. Not my thing.
Were you the good kid? Were you the rebel? Where were you in the mix?
Oh, so I think people would describe me in many ways, but good would not be one of the descriptions at all. I will say that my parents were blessed after me to have an amazing daughter who she did her homework twice, never went out. She really good kid. And my brother, who, the youngest of three, he was pretty good too, popular on the homecoming court, all that good stuff. So they made up for me not being good. So
did you ever get in trouble? Any serious trouble? Had to call dad from the police station, the sheriff's office call? Anything interesting?
well, I will say this, Steve, I'm 52 years old. So growing up, my I let's just say my parents on more than one occasion had to pull the drawer out and get bail money for their son to come
That's
home.
That's where you sharpened your people skills, communication skills.
So there's cell phones now. It's been so long, knock on wood. I don't know. Are there still phones in jails? I guess there have to be, right?
Yeah,
or
I don't know.
does everybody have a cell phone? You just
right.
have to borrow a cell phone. Or you just
But you got into the University of Cincinnati, so you went to college.
Yeah, so 1987 freshman year. And great place. Enjoyed it a lot. And been here in Cincinnati ever since. So we're 35 years in, right? Live here in the community of Anderson, 3 kids along with my wife, and having a great time. Yeah.
How old are the kids?
21, 13, and 11.
Ooh, 21 to 21 to 13. What happened? What was the deal there?
Well, so we've been married for 15 years. So my wonderful, beautiful wife, always, when we were growing up, she always wanted to start a family with adopting a kid. And so she ended up doing that before we got married. So that kind of took a lot of our focus when we were younger. So she became a foster care parent as a single parent.
Really?
And adopted our son when he was about 2 months old.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
But
so he was at our wedding. We like to joke with him. He was, he was my groomsman. And
how old was he when you guys got married?
He was 6 years old.
He was 6. So, but he called, I mean, your dad, the whole thing, like he doesn't know any different, right? Your dad.
No, that's the way he's raised. 2 months old. I will say this, you've got all these great pictures and you think you've set this scene and you have this wonderful close-knit family on both sides and inclusive. And he says he doesn't remember a darn thing.
He's 21.
Kidding me. You don't remember tying your shoe under the table like when we were having our first dance, or
pretty good.
Walking into the crowd. Doesn't remember anything. It's hilarious.
Is he still around? Is he going to school? Is he still at home? What's his story?
Yeah, he big 21-year-old. He's working at a company here in Cincinnati. He's at work now, and he's doing really well. My 13-year-old and 11-year-old, who you could probably hear in the background, they go to our local school here, Guardian Angels.
Okay.
Doing great, playing all the sports. My daughter, who I was pointing at that picture, she's the artist of that picture.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, she drew that a couple of years ago. She's a big dancer. If I could be a proud father and brag about Miss Layla, she won nationals in her dance competition last year at Pigeon Forge.
Wow.
In tap dance routine. So she's got a big, huge banner as a national champion.
Very cool. That's very
Yeah,
cool. Whoa,
very
man. What
cool.
about
Proud
so
daddy.
the little brother? Then he's like, okay, yeah, you're getting all the accolades, you're getting all the attention. What's is he pissed off about it? What's he doing?
Well, you know what? He gives her a hard time, but when it happened, you could see the pride. We were all very
Okay,
proud. He was. It's funny how that percolates. You wanna give your sister a hard time, but sometimes you can't help hide the pride. So that
that's
was
true. That's
very
true.
cool.
What about mom? What's she do? What's your wife do?
My wife is a social worker.
Okay.
Yeah, she works at the world-renowned Children's Hospital, Cincinnati
Oh,
Children's Hospital
okay.
here in Cincinnati. For you and your listeners, Steve, if you've never heard of it before, it is continually ranked 1, 2, 3 in the world
Mm,
for
mm,
all the services that they provide,
mm.
and people come from all over the world. I mean,
Wow.
it's I believe LA and Boston and Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, they're all there, and they switch back and forth all the time. So
So
she's
she's a very loving, patient person.
so you say she's laughing in the background. Yes, Steve, she is so loving and very patient. I'm lucky. I'm lucky to be her husband. I'm grateful that she chose me.
Man, you're gonna score. You guys scored a bunch of major points right there. That's good. Okay, so coming out of school, did you know what you wanted to do? Did you have a plan? Walk me into your early career.
So Steve, 52 years old. I don't know if I still don't know what I want to do. Right. But yeah, I'll tell you, I was fortunate enough one day to start working for a buddy whose family was in furniture retail. And coming out of college, all he wanted to do was own his own furniture store.
Mm,
And after he graduated, he's a couple years older than me. After he graduated, his parents helped him get a store, and he was super successful and ended up having a chain here in Cincinnati called the Rose Show Place that was here for several years.
mm.
But during that time, I came on board and started working for him. And my friend, with my father being a psychiatrist, my mind just blew, because sales, I never realized how connected it was with human behavior,
Mm,
understanding,
mm,
recognizing tells, right, and everything
mhm.
else. And I mean, I was just fascinated. I mean, I couldn't wait to get to work. It was so much fun. And I usually share with people that that's kind of how it works. I didn't realize it then, but those that have a passion for sales, business development, they don't usually know that at first.
That's true.
And then I tell everybody, you never hear in the 6th grade somebody telling you how they aspire to be a salesperson, right? I've never heard it. I've never heard it at any
That's a
sixth
good.
grade career fair.
Right.
So the sales bug got into me, and then sometime after, I got the opportunity to work at General Electric. So I was a little bit older after several
Okay.
years of working with my friend. Um, Started spreading my wings, and one day my boss tapped my shoulder and told me that I was doing unbelievable things. I didn't realize it, right? I was just so focused on what I was doing and closing deals, getting work done. And one particular instance was our first day on the floor after we had training. It was like a month long training before
Mm,
they
mm,
set us out on the sales floor, and they rewarded us with these sales leads, and it was just one sheet with a list of
names. Yeah.
names and contacts on there, companies. These were all Fortune 500 companies. And 3 months later, they called us all up to get a whole other set of leads. And when I went up, my boss looked at me and he said, "You've been calling the same lead sheet since the first day?" And I'm like, yeah, that's all I do every day, all day. And he said, do you know, like, everybody else has had like 10 or 20 lead sheets? I'm like, oh, really? Like, yeah. And he was like, you're gonna do good things, great things here at GE. And I was number one or two every 30-day, 90-day cycle there.
Nice.
And this is really the turning point in my life, really, is when he came to me and said the only thing I was missing in my background was a better understanding of business. And
Okay.
and then he recommended that I get my MBA.
I see. Okay. That's where that
Yeah.
came in. All right.
So
All right.
yeah. So from there, got my MBA and I was off pretty much. And shortly thereafter, I had an opportunity to come on board with an up and coming company, because the internet was a big thing. Right. And they were posting jobs on the internet. That was crazy. Wow. There was like this little, there was a company called Monster doing it, but not everybody really like kind of knew, but I started working for CareerBuilder shortly thereafter. And I've been in the human capital space ever since.
And yes, he worked for CareerBuilder, then went on to work for Monster for 6 years, almost 6 years. So then at some point, did you say, I want to do my own thing? This has been a great ride. I want to be an entrepreneur. Walk us into the transition there from Monster into kind of your own business. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, it's, again, sales is so amazing. I'm so grateful to kind of have discovered that. There's ups and downs, but it brings a lot of adventures, a lot of opportunities to educate, and a lot of sharing. And one of the things that I did at CareerBuilder that I thought, companies should know, because, and actually I'll give a lot of credit to General Electric too, because Jack Welch at the time, who was one of the greatest CEOs and very revered CEO at the time, all he talked about was diversity, and how the success behind GE was global diversity. And I embraced that, especially with my background. And when I went into these companies and I'd have these conversations with these HR leaders and talent acquisition leaders, I always made sure to speak of diversity and recruiting for diversity. And my manager took notice of it, and I started being kind of like the go-to person. I was a diversity lead for the region of our office, so that covered several states.
Gotcha.
So I started even talking and going to more organizations, actually even some government, some state and local government as well. And when I was at Monster, continuing with that, I connected with the CEO of an organization called Professional Diversity Network.
I see. All right.
And that was very entrepreneurial as well. The roots there start with an organization called iHispano, which was a professional networking platform for Hispanics from all industries. And this was even before LinkedIn, which some people I share that with and they roll their eyes. But truly, there was something there before. It didn't necessarily look like LinkedIn looks like today, but it was somewhere where professionals, Hispanic professionals, could go and connect with each other,
really
share some experiences, and go from there. So they leveraged that to attract potential candidates to companies seeking diversity, and specifically Hispanic professionals. And then from there, they grew to additional affinities, and they called it Professional Diversity Network. So I was very connected to the CEO at the time with my conversations with companies on how they could leverage different platforms and resources to assist with their diversity recruiting. And one day we talked to each other. It made sense to just hop on over there. and so continued my career there. And then I did a short stint with Salesforce implementation company,
I saw that.
which which was very interesting. So the CRM world was really a focus for the monsters and the career builders and the PDNs at the time, right? So I felt like I had a really good story to tell.
Okay.
Because it assisted me with all the success that I had. And learning the implementation side and what went on with that had an impact on me that I didn't anticipate until I went on my own. So shortly after that implementation engagement, I went back with a professional diversity network for a small stint to consult. And I met my business partner at the time, who worked in the same office building. He was with another company. And we just started talking, and we had a lot in common. And next thing you know, we started writing a business plan on a bar napkin, right?
I see.
And that bar napkin took life and became HamiltonDemo.
How the name HamiltonDemo?
So, great minds come up with great ideas. So his last name is Hamilton and my last name is Demosthenes. So HamiltonDemo, short for Hamilton Demosthenes.
I see. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I love it. I know people think about construction and demolition, but truly it was just something that short, simple, that we could go to market with right away. So hence HamiltonDemo.
Did you guys create the LLC or create the entity and keep your jobs and start doing it on the side a little bit first? Or did you just quit and go all in? Walk us through that transition.
Oh, so yeah, really good question, because it took a while to create it, right?
Yes.
So we did have these different jobs, but we had our eyes on the future.
Okay.
Right. So we were all in the sense that we were putting this all together. So it took about a year or so to do. And then once that was all together, we did dive in full head first.
Both of you quit your jobs and you went all in.
So I was all in. He was not all in at first. He had some time. He still had some runway. So I was first. Then he was second shortly thereafter. Yeah.
Okay. And
so we just completed after 2021 our fourth year. So
congratulations on that.
Paper,
sorry about that. Yeah. Congrats. I saw that you, but I don't see the business partner on the website.
Yeah. So there are some things going on there right now that he's stepped back for the moment. So hopefully I'll be able to share an update with you in a couple months. But yeah, he's still around.
He's still around, but you're gonna buy him out and get his units back. I understand. You're just working out the details.
Yeah, we'll have an update, but he's still around. I'll tell you what, God blesses us in a lot of ways that you don't expect. Like he's got a young family too. I'm so grateful. We've been able to sponsor a movie night at one of the local colleges with kids on the football field over the summer. We've been able to participate in Halloween and Valentine events for the community at one of the local parks where, because of the pandemic, we did a drive-by and they came through the park and drove in all these. We've done a lot of great things together. So there's been a lot of things that, gosh, if I had known how great it was to own my own business, I would have done it a long time ago. But I guess I needed the education and the wisdom of my experiences to get me here. But gosh, it's a little bit
of both, right? Yeah. Most people say something very similar. They say, gosh, I probably would have done it sooner if I could go back. But all the experience I gained before I started it also helped me. So it's a little bit of both, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So just finished your fourth year. Now, are you running it as a solo recruiting firm? Do you have employees? What's the size of it right now?
Yeah. So we've got some contractors. For the most part, we've got two other full-time contractors,
Okay.
and we have other contractors, about 5 or 6, that float in and out at any given time as needed.
Depending on what you need.
And Steve, what's really great is part of the experience in being in this space for so long, I've had the opportunity to create some relationships. So I've got some strategic partners as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So collaboration has been something that I definitely look to at times when needed, and it's really been beneficial to have those strategic partners.
For the listeners right now, now's probably a good time. It is HamiltonDemo.com. HamiltonDemo.com. There's a contact information page on there, and you can learn more about the company. Are you a generalist? Do you specialize in certain industries, functions? Tell us about the business. How would you describe it?
So I would describe it more of a generalist, focusing anywhere we've got expertise in multiple industries, from New York to LA. I've done everything from Amgen, Capital One, Disney, Morgan Stanley, Chase, Bank One back in the day before they merged. Lots of things locally with Macy's, Limited Brands, Walmart. The list goes on and on. Multiple industries over the 18 years, right? So, we can do anything from hourly all the way to the boardroom. I like to say. So we focus more on placement, but we also do project work.
Okay.
And
when you say project work, do you mean you provide contractors for temp assignments, or what do you mean?
So project work in the sense, if a client says to me, "Hey, we're opening a new satellite office with 300 employees and we need focus on," we can do a project around that. If, for example, I worked with Chipotle for a while, or HamiltonDemo worked with Chipotle for a while, when they were opening up a new location, we would help them with those new store openings. So that would be a project as well.
I see.
So yeah, it can really entail anything. And then on top of that, I have an expertise in diversity recruiting.
Gotcha. When you say hourly to CEO, are you a percentage per body? Are you an hourly rate? Are you a project rate? Or is it a little, does it depend, or?
Yeah, it depends, right? So usually with the hourly roles, it's not, unless it's a significant hourly rate. We're not charging a fee, a percentage fee. It's more of a flat rate, probably going. And those companies usually need more than one person, one candidate. So we'll do a project for something like that. So it's really case by case. We try to make ourselves flexible to the client's needs.
Okay, very good. And you just finished your fourth year in business, so congrats! You made it 4 years. If you make it past 3, your chances of long-term survival increase.
Hey, brother, the target is 5, right?
Yeah, right.
I'm really excited. So as we start year 5, I'm looking to complete year 5, and I will say this: having the experience and expertise and everything that we had, and coming in with such confidence and enthusiasm, the number one thing I probably would have changed is not start a business before a pandemic. But nobody told me. I had to learn that on my own. But we are grateful for the success, because we've still been growing year after year. We're right on pace. We're right on pace with our performa, and we're looking forward to the future.
Congratulations. Okay. Well, last year was a solid year for you, 2021.
Yeah, again, steady growth.
Good.
So, being a small business, we're not talking multiple millions,
Mhm.
but we're significant growth year over year that we're really excited about. So getting to year 5 will get us to those multiple digit numbers that we're talking about.
If you had to give one piece of advice to somebody out there thinking about starting a service business, maybe not recruiting, but any service business, and I know we could do a full episode on that question, but
Yeah.
if you could give a quick tip or two, what would you say based on what you've learned?
Other than starting before a pandemic,
Yeah. Other than that,
that's a pretty good tip. Actually, you know what? Some of the things that I've learned are the things I've overheard and kind of watched other people go through and discuss before. So, number one, you can never save too much money.
Okay.
Right. So, if you think you need 10,000, you probably need 20 or 30.
Gotcha.
All right. So keep that in mind. Also, the support, wherever you can gain that support is important, whether it's internally, externally, accountants, etc.
Okay.
We've been blessed. We've got tremendous support both at home and from our partners, and the collaboration that we have is amazing.
Your wife didn't look at you some nights and go, "What the hell are you doing? Can you go back and get a regular job?"
Yeah, maybe she did, maybe she didn't. So those are the things too. And even in spite of my relationships and the business that we've had, I'll say that I wasn't afraid. My partner and I weren't afraid to maybe do something that was a little bit difficult. We didn't just go for the low hanging fruit.
Okay.
And that gave us and has given us the opportunity. I've learned that. I will say this: when you do the difficult stuff, it really gives you an opportunity to really show off and make an impression and accelerate the relationship with the client.
You mean like,
right? So
like placing a brain surgeon or something super hard?
Yeah, well, there have been opportunities where it would have probably been easier to do something easy and then get a win, and they'll call us if they need us. But that it comes, hey, we're having a hard time. We've been trying to place somebody in this role for 6 months and we can't do it. We've been trying to place this person. Actually, last year we had a role where this company based out in Phoenix, they've been trying to place somebody in there for over a year. Weren't able to do it. And we actually found the individual within 2 to 3 weeks of taking on the rec.
Nice.
And that was over July, and some things happened. He had his start date in October. But from that, we are now in a position to gain a longer lasting relationship and do a lot more with some consistent business. And this is with a very well-known brand that we're super excited about.
That's
and
fantastic.
Yeah. So I will say that don't be afraid. Don't abandon all the things to make yourself successful and have a successful engagement. Don't do that. But if you could take on that role and set the right expectations and fulfill what's needed, I think you'll find that the rewards will be higher. What do they say? That low risk, low return, high risk, high return. So definitely, I would say that's something that you should consider.
If you were to give one piece of advice to hiring managers, because you work with hiring managers all the time, right? If you could give one, maybe two pieces of advice to a hiring manager right now today in this market? And by the way, we're recording this on February 9th, 2022. What would you tell them? What would you tell your audience?
Steve, that is a great question. And I've actually been having this conversation more and more. When I look at the wins versus the non-wins, and I won't call them losses, I'll truly call them the non-wins.
Okay.
And there's some similarities. When you're in a remote state or remote office or separated from the hiring manager and their team, they don't see all the work you're doing.
That's
Right. So when you say, okay, it's been 3 days and we've already worked and there's some cost to that, or there's time associated, they may say there, but you can see in their eyes on the Zoom call or hear it in their voice. It's like, sure there is, right? And I will say that the turnaround from the feedback is not optimal, right? So when you look at the wins, some of the consistent things are consistent feedback, being able to contact and really have some interaction through the process with the hiring manager and recruiters, and being able to help facilitate and coach the candidate through that process with their help. So I will say, if you're not ready, both mind and spirit and time, to give to whatever resource, firm, recruiter, etc., you should really take that into consideration, because I know in this time everybody's being asked to do more with less. But this is one area that if you let candidates sit around for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks without that feedback, if you let a recruiter, an outside recruiter, sit around for 1, 2, 3 weeks without feedback or interaction or next steps, you're really decreasing the opportunity for success.
Wonderful advice, my friend. And Evan, we could just dive in on that. I could just go off on that topic for
that's a longer conversation, right?
It really is. Great advice.
I mean, the times I've had with these hiring managers, some will give me, I've got them on the phone for an hour, that we're talking like we're creating bullets, and then some you don't have that opportunity. So yeah, it's amazing.
I want to emphasize and point out a couple of things here on your speech around that, and that for the listeners, especially if you're a hiring manager and you're listening to this episode, speed and feedback, just those two words. Move quickly to get the talent processed, speed, and give the recruiter, the vendor, your resource, the thing you're paying for, give them good communication and feedback. Just like Evan said, that is probably, those are two of the biggest pet peeves for us here at Riderflex, right? As a recruiter.
Okay.
It's like, I love it when the client's like, we're going to pass on Mary. Okay. Well, why? What? Can you give me some feedback? Yeah, we just didn't like Mary. Okay. Well, that doesn't tell me anything, and that doesn't help me pick the next finalist to put in front of you. Right. So yeah, you gotta, as a hiring manager, just give feedback to your resource. It will help them and move quickly. We could go on and on about that topic, but I just want to emphasize everything I'm just repeating what you said, basically.
You said it very succinctly. And if we can have a little bit more fun in the spirit of being in the days leading up to the Super Bowl, so you can see my shirt.
Got it.
I would tell your listeners too, as an example, if you're in a college and you're a coach on a team and you're looking for that 5-star athlete to join your team, the longer you wait to interact with that player and his or her parents,
that's right.
Without that communication, the less likely you are to have that talent join your team, right? And And somebody else, if you don't do it, somebody else will do it. They'll get
That's
there.
right. That's right. How about this one? One or two quick bullet points for the candidates based on everything you're seeing right now with regards to their interviewing skills or their approach.
Oh, that's
I
a
know,
whole other show,
I
Steve.
know that. I know we could do a whole
Other
show
show.
around it.
Yeah, that's a whole other show. So, really quick, be open, right? So all the things that are going on in the world, companies are going through that too, right? People are being asked to do more with less. So, you know, getting hired within 3 or 4 days is something from the past, right? Getting hired, you get contacted on the Monday, and then you have your start date 2.5, 3 weeks later. That's something of the past. It's not happening now because there aren't as many people being able to do all the jobs. We got to do more with less. So have a little patience, be flexible, and also for those who. One of the things I'm hearing from a lot of candidates is that they're understanding that they hold the cards now, which they do. And they're being a little bit more forceful in their demands and their requirements for what they want for the future. That is great. I don't think anyone really would want to take away any of those things from a candidate and having a really good place to land. I would just add for them to remember that there's probably never been an opportunity or a time in our history where one person can walk off the street or apply to a job somewhere and come on board to a company and make such an immediate impact. And that impact could be lasting and have whatever direction with their career. I mean, the opportunities are phenomenal. I placed a candidate for a medium-sized construction company, and literally within a few months, that particular person, he wasn't looking for a Midwestern construction company to come to the East Coast and scoop him up, but he took a chance. And let me tell you, they have an opportunity to increase their revenue by tenfold within the next 3 to 5 years because of the synergies and the impact that this individual took a chance on for this organization. So keep that in mind. Yeah. If you can see yourself growing within a company, the impact that you make can be transforming for that organization.
Love it. How about this one, my friend? Diversity and inclusion, especially since you're an expert, really, at the diversity side. What would you tell a hiring manager with regards to improving that? And again, same thing. I know we could do a whole show on this, but let me put it this way. I hear the words a lot, but I'm not sure everybody really understands what it means or what they should tactically do. I think that's really the best way for me to phrase it. I hear them saying it from a strategy perspective. Our strategy is to improve diversity and inclusion. But what does that mean tactically? Like, what are you doing? What tangible things are you doing? So that's the advice I'm looking for you to give the listener is what can they actually do besides say the words?
Yeah, my friend, I just thought of something. I don't know why I didn't think of this before, but I just thought of a baseball team.
Okay.
Going back to GE, they embraced diversity so much, and they wanted different points of views, different perspectives to have input on everything they did on every level. And even 20 years ago, you can go back and there was diversity on every level of the organization. Was it perfect? No, but they 100% strived for diversity globally. And we all have heard, and if you haven't heard, feel free to look it up. There's tons of articles, research studies, etc., that show from grade school to corporate America that you can pretty much bet who is going to be much more successful, what companies, what teams, what organizations, by the ones that are more diverse. So in high school, if you remember, and I remember this too, firsthand, when you had different projects, the team that usually did the best had the cheerleader, had the jock, had the band guy, had the nerd, and had, just maybe some guy who stood. The team that had all jocks on it didn't perform as well as that one. The team that had all band people in it didn't perform as well as the diverse. The one that had all, right? So the one that has the mix, the people from different perspectives are able, and you're able to bring that into your solution, into the marketplace, the workplace, wherever, education, etc. You can almost 100% say that you're going to be more successful than the others. In corporate America, all you need to do is look at the Fortune 500, and your top companies are usually the ones that are more diverse and embrace diversity the most. So as I was sharing with you, I don't know why I didn't think about this before, but the example of a baseball team popped up in my head. So do you want all right-handed pitchers and batters on a baseball team that can only, move to their right and can't really do a lot of other things, right? Or do you want different types of players with different skill sets that can bat both ways, or they're left-handed, right-handed, etc., playing that have strengths at different parts of the field? And not only can you bring a strategy, but you can have specification when needed, right? And you can focus a strategy to a certain situation if need. Like that seems to me to be a really good analogy, right? You never know when you're going to need somebody, but he's there sitting on the bench waiting for the call when you need him. So all those things together as a team, I think really tells the story of how great and impactful diversity can be.
One of the problems I think people are having that aren't educated on it is they don't know where to go get the left-handed pitcher. They don't know where to look for the left-handed pitcher. So what would you say? Yeah. What would you say to that? Like, if you get a client that says, look, I have a leadership team of 10 people. They're all white 50-year-old males. Please find me a Hispanic female and a black male to be on my leadership team. I want you to specifically target those. If you got that call, give the listeners a couple of tips on where to look specifically, besides going on LinkedIn and just skipping past all the white males.
Yeah. So actually, Steve, you asked such great questions, but I would say that is a great first step. What you want to do is look for someone like me, right? Yeah. A firm or a company like me, and be willing to share. Hey, we don't know what we're doing when it comes.
We don't know where to look.
We don't know how to do it. We don't know where to look. So I actually love when that happens, because that tells me that they're not far. They're not far from success, because they understand and realize whatever they're doing is not working. It's not effective. Now, to their surprise, maybe a bit of a surprise, the leap is not necessarily that far. I hate to simplify it saying you just need to start doing things differently. You need to start looking at different places and approaching it in a different way. But truly, that's how it starts. You just analyze what you're doing, and rather than going to LinkedIn and skipping over those that don't have the visual diversity that you seek, or that you're relating to what you're trying to get, the results you're trying to get, there are more resources out there than you can possibly think of. Number two, when they come to me, I think that's also an acknowledgement that they are not able to tap into their network to get that result that they seek. And so they need to expand their network. Someone like me,
good one.
I can integrate my network into that process. And now my network has the ability to attract those diverse candidates as well. And one thing I will say without sharing the secret sauce, Steve, which I think a lot of times even the best companies forget, one of the best places to start is from within, right? So if you have employees already within your organization, you should remind them of your referral program. I think a lot of companies take it for granted that, hey, since they have one, everybody knows. Well, that's not true. Life happens. They're putting out fires, and what they knew January 1st, they've forgotten by December 31st, right? So continue to remind them, and maybe even have a conversation with them, because if they're not willing to tap into their network or refer someone to your company, that's telling in itself, right? Maybe there's an opportunity for discovery and to learn. As a matter of fact, we one of the large healthcare networks here in the Cincinnati area, we had a diversity recruiting focus group series where we went in with several of their employees from all different departments and rankings, different employee levels, salary levels, and our discovery was amazing. What we uncovered, everything from behavior, interaction, perceived value to the organization, to even travel, right? And everything in between. So through those focus groups that came, and we used the employees' voices as well to communicate to the organization. And they've started a very robust campaign that's providing some tremendous returns as we speak. So those are some simple things.
I want to ask you two tougher questions, maybe somewhat outside the lines. Feel free to pass on them if you want to, but let me ask.
Oh, those weren't the tough questions? You got tougher questions?
I got two more, and I know we're bumping up on our stop time. Do you have time for two more quick ones?
Of course.
Okay. Company calls you and they say, I want a VP of sales. And they say, I want a Asian female is their target.
Okay.
Do you not present the white male candidate that is more qualified than the Asian female to your client because they asked for an Asian female?
So, Steve, usually that conversation doesn't usually happen that way, right? First of all, but I'm glad you asked it, because I think a lot of times people outside of companies, or when they're sitting on their couch, if you were to talk about this, that's what they're thinking.
That's
right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So how it usually works is you're looking for a role, and the company will come to me, and they already have a predefined framework of what their diversity needs are, right? So, and that's what they usually present to me. And if and when they don't, that's the first thing I say to them. It's like, okay, well, what's diversity to you? Or, hey, why are we focusing on this? Let's define that first. So the next step is, once I have all that information, then I usually go specifically to those to those pools. So let's just say I'm 5'7". If somebody asked me for someone who's 6'5", then it'd be pretty surprising if you found somebody who was 5'7", right? Like, I've got all the skills, but how would I even find a guy 5'7" if I only went to a world where to a candidate pool where there's only 6'5" or over guys? So in that sense, and another thing with the image that I shared about the person sitting on the couch trying to take all this in, usually by the time they come to me or when they're asked, and they've already, to what we've already talked about, they've already exhausted their own resources, and they've already seen the people that they wanted to see over and over again. So we're using and tapping into completely different networks and pools and resources that are literally giving us the opposite of what they've usually seen. So although it is truly, that example is 100% a possibility, quite frankly, at least in my experience, it hasn't had the opportunity to happen in my practice.
It's usually not that direct. A really great answer. And I want to emphasize to the listeners, especially, I like the analogy of sitting on the couch and you don't know how it works. Usually the company does say, hey, look, we need a VP of sales. Here's our current diversity lineup. This is what we currently look like as a company. Boy, would be nice to have some minority females because we don't have any minority females on our leadership team, as you can see by our diversity chart. That would be great, but I need a good VP of sales. So then you as the recruiter, you're like, okay, I want to look in pools. I want to go to the bars where I know that the Asian females hang out at instead of just go to the biker bars.
Yeah, my wife left, so go ahead. I like this part.
So it forces you to go, oh, they're lacking in minority females. So I am going to look in these other pools aggressively. Doesn't mean I'm not going to present the white male candidate that comes up that's super qualified. Just means I'm aggressively checking these other bars where different people hang out at, so I can surface great talent there and present options to the client that might help them with their diversity.
Yeah.
But in fact, same for us at Riderflex, right? I've never had a client say, I will not talk to a white male.
Yeah.
Like they don't say it. They don't say it like that. They say, hey, can you help us with our diversity? Please make sure you're presenting candidates that have a good mix, et cetera, et cetera. It's a lot more like that. Yeah.
And Steve, let me backtrack a little bit, because I insinuate that I've never been in a situation like that a little, but that's not quite true, because we embrace veterans here. And oftentimes we've had situations where, hey, they weren't actually asking for this type of person, but this is a veteran, and we want to give them a little bit more of an opportunity to market themselves. Let's reach out and see what they're all about, right? Let's take that and see if let's see if they're a fit. And so in those situations, there have been situations, to your point, where, hey, you know what, this is a little bit off target, but we love the guy, we're going to hire him. Or, there are different nuances and different situations, but it is it is what it is, and you pivot. I will say too, with the diversity piece, what I find, and again, I'll go back to the guy on the couch. A lot of times these companies will come to us often because they're being compelled to, and it could be for some outside force, whether it's legal or something else, whatever. But a lot of times it's because of a big win, right? So that VP of sales, they might have had a huge contract from an Asian company. And because of that,
exactly.
they're like, hey,
yes, yeah,
we want to make,
yeah,
this is right. So a company can be compelled in a lot of different ways. It's not necessarily a negative thing. It's something that, they're doing to strengthen whatever relationship, value, service that they're providing, etc. And there's a lot of different situations.
Really appreciate you visiting on that topic. Thank you very much. Are you last sticky one outside the lines? Are you getting companies saying, talking about COVID here? Are you getting companies saying, yeah, don't send me people unless they're vaccinated? Don't send me. Are you getting,
Oh,
what do you
100%, 100%. So, Steve, the stance that I've taken, and I share this with my clients because I figured this out right away. This may come as a surprise to some of your listeners. Even the best candidates, sometimes they don't tell you the whole truth.
yeah. Surprise candidates.
Sometimes they don't tell you the whole truth. So I figured out very quickly that whatever they want, I will screen and pre-qualify to the best of my ability. But their decision to hire somebody and the candidate's decision to show up for that first date, that's totally up to them. And it's happened where, somebody was vaccinated and they still didn't want to show up to work, or someone that wasn't vaccinated, they got the offer and were provided the opportunity to get, and they didn't want, it's been everything in between too, right? So the clients that I have that request that, I share right up front that we will screen and pre-qualify to the best of our ability, but that is something that we cannot guarantee. They will have to make that call and follow through with that on their own.
Do you encourage candidates to be careful with their social media? If you have a candidate that's like out there on social media, just screaming about whatever hot topic there is of the month, and
So Steve, you've brought up like questions for like 7 different shows.
I know,
this
man.
is a whole other show. So I do have my checklist. So yeah, maybe if you've got like a picture on Facebook with you crossing your arms and holding up like firearms, maybe take that down. If you don't want to take it down, at least just keep it to your friends. So if you know that you're looking for a job, because employers will look you up on social media, right? If you're far to one side, or everybody has the right to express themselves. But if your neighbors and friends have maybe given you some negative feedback on your commentary on social media, again, maybe just go dark for a little bit. There's nothing wrong with going dark, right? And then, as a matter of fact, I believe that being able to articulate your views can be very beneficial, even if they're far one side or the other, rather than allowing imagery to provide the messaging, because you can't control the image, right? So whoever the person is seeing, they can get they can have a perception or an idea of you that is completely false, rather than you having the opportunity to articulate. So 100%, I would recommend, especially if there's anything that can, give a negative connotation to your persona. And that not only goes for social media, that goes for voice covers on your voicemail.
Right.
I've had a lot of candidates who companies called to leave a message and they're like, no go. Anybody who did that, we don't want to do it. And simple things such as
Simple
that.
things. Really great advice. I just want to emphasize, I don't think Yvonne nor we're not saying, there's not the First Amendment. You can't express yourself. Yeah, you can do all of that. I'm just recommending as your recruiter that you temporarily chill out during your job search, and then you can do whatever you want.
Bias comes in all shapes and sizes, right? When you're promoting yourself, you want to be able to control that narrative. So don't allow somebody the opportunity to have a bias against you, whether it's true or not. So I definitely think that mindset. Always think like an executive. Executives don't they control themselves. They give an image for the most part, not all the time, but for the most part, right? They stand up straight. They always look like they're, well groomed, etc. Got their phone. They answer their phone in a certain way. Hello, this is so and so. If you're expecting phone calls, just be ready for it, and I think good things will happen.
Really great advice. Last question, my friend. If you had to define your core purpose in life, outside of your lovely wife and your 3 children, let's set them aside for a minute. So beyond your immediate family, what is Evan's core purpose?
So my core purpose professionally, only my close friends know this, but I'm really grateful for a lot of things in life, and I have realized how lucky I am in my 52 years. And I am hoping that through what I do, to give and share, maybe not to the whole scope, but I'd like for as many people as I come in contact with to have opportunities that I've had in my life. So what does that mean? How do I do that? I hope to be able to engage and provide professional and personal development to what I call potential emerging leaders. And these are individuals that may never have thought about it being a manager. Maybe they've got these natural skills that they're busting their tail and they're doing this and that, but to get to the next level of supervisor, manager, director, whatever that may be, I'm hoping to be able to enhance that for those. Because what are the obstacles? Usually it's credentialing, right? Education, and money, right? Not everybody has $100,000 to get a bachelor's degree anymore. Right. Not everybody has the opportunity to leave work for 2 weeks while they go to a workshop and, gain the skills that they need and everything else around that. So I'm hoping before it's all said and done that I can have some impact on that, mate. And as I look at you, Steve, I think I'm going to reach out to you for help on that too. I think we can do some great things together.
Evan, thank you so much for being on the Riderflex podcast and sharing your story. I really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure.